reflet de l'estime que tant d'êtres humains ont pour toi. Des racines invincibles, reste impliqué dans ce combat. Palestine, on te ressent comme un éclat de soleil dans le froid, la brise. Tu restes droit face à tous ceux qui méprisent tes droits et ta foi. Palestine, il résiste, se bat, Palestine, on donne la liberté à Palestine. Plus d'un siècle de combat, Palestine, Palestine, j'ai envie de perdre toi à l'infini. J'aimerais qu'on voit en toi le reflet de l'estime que ton être humain ont pour toi. Des racines à racines, reste impliqué dans ce combat. Palestine, si c'est éloigné de toi, on perçoit tes douleurs et tes cris, tout comme les nôtres touchant nos propres vies. Le nom d'Israël est Palestine, et pour ça ils combattent sans les cris. Les montagnes qui à chaque pas éliminent la bravoure de combat. Palestine, Palestine, j'ai envie de croire en toi. J'aimerais qu'on voit en toi le reflet de l'estime que ton être humain pour toi. Des racines invincibles, reste impliqué dans ce combat.
Establishment and expansion of settlements in the occupied Palestinian territory by Israel is a great breach of Article 147 of the Fourth Geneva Convention and therefore a war crime. Shame on you, Puma! Shame on you, Puma! Shame on you, Puma!
Shame on you, Puma.
Puma, through its sponsorship of Apartheid Israel Football Association and its illegal Israeli settlement football clubs located on stolen Palestinian land, is fully complicit in these war crimes against the Palestinian people. Shame on you, Puma! Shame on you, Puma! Shame on you, Puma!
J'aimerais qu'on voit en toi le reflet de l'estime que ton être humain ont pour toi. Des racines à racines, reste impliqué dans ce combat.
Palestinian sports clubs have urged Puma to end its sponsorship of Apartheid Israel Football Association. Their letter, dated the 10th of September 2018, to the CEO of Puma and to the members of the board of Puma reads, We are writing to urge Puma to end its sponsorship of the Israel Football Association, IFA, due to its deep complicity in Israel's violations of international law and Palestinian human rights. The IFA sponsors football matches in illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank, as exposed by Human Rights Watch and other human rights organizations. There are 6 Israeli football clubs located in Israel's settlements on stolen Palestinian land that Palestinians are not allowed to enter. Israel's settlements contribute to serious human rights abuses and are a direct cause for restrictions on Palestinian freedom of movement, access to natural resources, and ability to build homes and conduct business. IFA's involvement in Israel's illegal settlements has been condemned by, among others, Wilfried Lemke, the UN Special Advisor on Sport for Development and Peace. Dozens of members of the European Parliament, MEPs, civil society and human rights groups, and public figures from the world of art and culture. Despite these global appeals, the IFA has decided to put politics above sport and refuse to end its complicity. We urge you to abide by your code of ethics by withdrawing your sponsorship of the Israel Football Association until it ends its involvement in Israel's grave violations of international law and human rights abuses against the Palestinians. Signed by 215 Palestinian sports clubs.
Puma launched its Universal Equality reform campaign to mark the 50th anniversary of Tommy Smith and John Carlos's Black Power. Raised fist salute at the 1968 Olympics to protest racism and injustice against African Americans in the United States. Whilst we celebrate Tommy Smith and John Carlos' courageous commitment to social justice and sacrifice for the oppressed, we ask them today to once again raise his fist for the oppressed and for the Palestinians. Puma cannot promote universal equality while sponsoring apartheid war crimes in Palestine. We urge Puma to heed his call for the oppressed Palestinians and to stop his complicity in Israeli war crimes. Okay. In the 80s, the United Nations compiled a blacklist of those appeasing the apartheid regime in South Africa. An apartheid offenders database, their names are forever reviled as shameful supporters of racism and oppression. Today, the United Nations is again compiling an apartheid offenders database of companies complicit in apartheid Israel's illegal settlements built on stolen Palestinian land. Puma's sponsorship of apartheid Israel Football Association makes it eligible for inclusion. So do you really want to wear a brand that symbolises apartheid, racism, human rights abuses and war crimes? Boycott Puma today. Free Palestine.
Boycott Puma!
Boycott Puma today!
The right one.
Boycott Puma today! Boycott Puma today!
And we'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. One day. Deep in my heart, I do believe
Palestinian prisoners, which has resulted in 221 Palestinian prisoners dying in Israeli occupation prisons since 1967. The latest Palestinian prisoner to die in Israeli custody was 12 days ago. On 8th September 2019, Bassam Sayeh was killed in Israeli custody by medical neglect. Bassam worked for Palestine newspaper in the West Bank when he was abducted by Israeli occupation forces in 8th October 2015 and imprisoned. Despite being severely ill with leukemia and bone cancer and having suffered a heart attack, he was shackled, both his hands and feet, right up until he died. Israel's mistreatment of sick Palestinian prisoners is a calculated policy of slow execution through deliberate medical neglect, denial of treatment, and constant abuse. 2 months ago, on 16 July 2019, 31 years old Palestinian prisoner Nassar Taqadata was found dead in his isolation cell after being tortured for nearly a month. He had been taken to Israel's notorious El Jalan torture den for interrogation on 19th June 2019. Following harsh interrogation, he was sent to solitary confinement at Nitzan Detention Center to die in isolation. Despite his weakness and visible signs of medical need, he was denied medical treatment, and the Israeli prison authorities refused to remove him from solitary confinement, claiming he was being punished. He was subjected to cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment amounting to torture under interrogation. His autopsy showed he had succumbed to acute pneumonia. His hands and feet showed clear signs of shackling during his interrogation. Earlier this year, on 6 February 2019, another Palestinian prisoner, Faris Barod, died in Israeli custody. 51-year-old Faris Barod from Al-Shati refugee camp in Gaza was abducted and imprisoned in 1991. Barod was one of the prisoners that was meant to be released in 2013 as part of the prisoner exchange deal Israel agreed to with the Palestinian Authority. Instead, Israel violated the agreement, refusing to release the final 30 prisoners named, including Barod. Instead of being released, Barod was caged by the occupation for 27 years. Much of that time he spent in solitary confinement. The last was for consecutive years between 2011 and 2016, which led to the deterioration of his health condition. Israel denied Faris Baroud family visits for the last 18 years of his life. His elderly mother, Raya Baroud, was not allowed to visit her son for nearly 2 decades. Despite her frail to visit her son, despite her frail health condition, every week, month upon month, year upon year, Raya would walk to the office of the International Committee of the Red Cross in Gaza City. Holding her son's framed photo, she would beg the Red Cross to pressure Israel into letting her see her son and to demand his release. Faris's father died when Faris was still a child. His mother, Raya, remained unmarried after the death of her husband, dedicated her life to raising Faris. They lived together in a small home in the Shati refugee camp in Gaza before the Israeli occupation abducted him 27 years ago. Last year, at the age of 85, Raya passed away without seeing her son again. Her last wish was to hug her beloved son before she died. The International Committee of the Red Cross is to be condemned for failing to take action and hold the Israeli occupation accountable for its violations against Palestinian prisoners. Their inaction emboldens the occupation to continue its crimes against the prisoners. Out of nearly 6,000 Palestinian prisoners caged in occupation dungeons, there are approximately 700 sick Palestinian prisoners, including 160 seriously ill with chronic diseases who require specialized treatment, and 25 with cancer. Their medical neglect is a war crime under the Geneva Conventions. Companies like Puma, who ignore Palestinian suffering and support the illegal occupation, are complicit in these war crimes. Shame on Puma!
Shame on Puma!
Shame on Puma!
Shame on Puma! Free the prisoners!
Free the prisoners! Free the prisoners! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Shame on Puma!
Shame on Puma!
Shame on Puma!
Shame on Puma!
Shame on Puma! Free Palestine!
We are the people that live upon for Palestine. We'll bring down the wall. Freedom for Palestine. Demand justice for all. Freedom for Palestine. We'll break down the law. Freedom for Palestine. Justice for for justice in Palestine.